Let's welcome to the stage, John Philbin. Next up, I've got Fritz. And next up, I've got Courtney. Coming ever so shortly will be John Philbin, so whenever he comes up on the stage, I'll give him a big round of applause as well. We're going to open this up to Q&A. So if you've got a question, what we'll do, we'll just raise your hand, stand up, ask your question there. So.
Well, let me insert, I don't know if this is on, you can hear me, but I'm pretty much the loudmouth in the group, so I'll speak quite a bit and so forth. But our introducer made a wonderful comment about this is 2.5 years in the making, and we backstage realized it's 37 years in the making.
Getting old, man.
The three of us, actually the four of us, have really never been together since we made the film. So when John Philbin joins us, Amos in the film, it'll be unique, and you'll see something that we've never seen before.
A pentagram on his chest?
He promised he would carve one for you live. Yeah, live. On your chest. What can we answer for you? What would you like to know about that which we have done?
Yeah. Don't be shy.
Well, let's talk about
So
the film.
looks like we've got a question here on the front row here. We're on the second row, sorry.
Courtney, how did you get into the character of creating Malachi?
How did I get into the character of creating Malachi? So, you know, they say actors should never like look in a mirror, like when they're like looking at what they're acting, because it's like watching yourself's not really good. But what I would do is I had this intensity I wanted to see in my eyes, but you know, I'd work on it internally, like in method acting stuff, and I'd run in the mirror and look. And I was like, oh, it's not there yet. Over a week, and then finally I went in there and it was there, that stare, you know, that was looking around. I was like, okay, whatever's burning on the inside now is there because it's coming out. So that's kind of how I prepared.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awfully scary. It's terrible.
Well, when we were filming, he'd always ask me, are you okay? Because I'd be ready to go already, you know. Every time I walked into that cornfield, it'd be like stepping into a football arena or something. Like I was ready. And he'd go, so you're walking here, talking here, and I'm like, you okay, buddy? Yeah, just roll. I'm good.
That's exactly true.
Here it is, the man.
That never happens. When I come into a room.
Well, we told him you're carving a pentagram into your chest, so we're already looking forward to that.
Done. No, I don't take my shirt off for anybody anymore.
Just his wife. Next question. Yeah, keep going.
So we got a question here, the New Mexico.
Hey, thanks for being here, first off. Thank you very much. I was wondering, have any of you guys met, or was Stephen King ever on set, or have he given you any kind of feedback on this film?
He was not on the set at all. What I've heard is that, but this is true, Fritz can let me know, is that he sold the rights to the story when he was an English teacher back in Maine, back in the day, for like $300 or whatever. And then somebody found the rights and pulled it out of the file cabinet, and then all the movies had started coming out, The Shining, and so at the time, so the rumor goes, is that they were suing, he had lawyers suing to get more money. So I don't know what happened, the result, but anyway, I'm sure they said, don't come to the set. And, years later, there were like magazines that interviewing Stephen King about Children of the Corn, and you just said, that Courtney and I did a great job, and that we would probably go on to do better stuff. That's all I got.
Yeah, very much. He also, from my understanding of the legacy of the production effort, sold to Hal Roach, the man who started The Little Rascals. And Hal Roach's interest at the time was to reinvent and I booed Little Rascals, not very friendly Little Rascals, but
Can you imagine? Little Rascals and Children of the Corn.
it didn't work so well, so the company for whom we worked and made the film, New World, bought it with a syndicate of buyers and then rewrote the script that we worked on and that we turned into the film. So it does have a funny legacy that it really wasn't. So I think there's a reticence and a discontent on the part of King about the film because it wasn't his original story.
But a woman came up to my table with her phone and she showed me Stephen King's Twitter feed, and on it he had a picture of him with corn, who's in the cornfield, and at the bottom it said, "He who walks behind the rows." So he knows about it.
He coattails on greatness. Quentin Tarantino of horror.
All right, next question. Who we got?
Okay, this is going to be an oddball out of left field question.
You're in the right place.
Just like, and we'll use Star Wars as an example. There was the fictitious religion of, you know, the Jedi, the Force and such, and all of a sudden, 20 years later, the Force is recognized as a religion. Has anything happened? Is there a Children of the Corn or a Rose religion that y'all are looking at?
God, I hope not.
Dearly beloved.
I've heard of a few punk bands, a punk band named Malachi, so yeah, there's things like that.
I mean, have they approached y'all maybe merchandising lines like corn cob, Children of the Corn, you know, pipes?
Not yet.
Merchandising.
Great ideas.
Signed a few sickles in our day, that's for sure. Yes, sir.
I didn't see the original first, but I saw the original and loved it. Did it surprise y'all that it kept spawning more and more sequels and even a few remakes now, and like how popular it got?
Yes.
I'll be even more frank. What are you, fucking kidding me? You know, we ran out to the cornfield in very short order, very fast production schedule, as we all know. I was making TV commercials at the time, so we worked on that kind of agenda. Tomorrow we shoot. And we put this together in a month or 6 weeks, shot the film in about 4 weeks.
Wow.
And never thought that our invention, because lots of it was really invented on the spot, would ever sustain. And yet it really did have some legs and some youthfulness that brought on an adult lineage, I guess we could say.
And then years later, they kept cranking out, you know, the sequels. So my writing partner and I went into, it was Dimension Films then, and just pitched for number 6, Isaac's Return. And they're like, "Yay, thank you, we're running out of ideas." And then they were going to bookend it. And then, of course, it made too much money and they got greedy, so they started cranking out 7. What I've heard is that they need to keep doing so many every few years in order to keep the rights from Stephen King. So, and originally, my writing partner and I, we were told, write whatever you want. So we had this whole scene with Courtney and like Isaac taking over the world with explosions and satellites beaming. And then they're like, we turned in our draft and they're like, "This is a low budget movie. We can't do this. This is insane." So we're like, "Well, why did you waste our time writing this whole draft?" So we had to go back, and they're like, "Oh, don't take your time. Don't worry. We've got time." And then, of course, the same thing. And this production company did number 5, so they should have known when the corn was in season. And this was so they called us up seriously a week before and said, "We need the script now." So it was like over in a week. My writing partner and I were able to crank out the script, and later on they had various directors interview, and finally Carrie Scotland, who's a famous, wonderful director, she helped us shape the script to get it into, and it turned out better than I thought.
There's a prequel, I think, coming out soon as well that was shot in Australia during the pandemic. So it just keeps going, man. Now we even got a prequel.
Do they have corn in Australia?
Good question. That's not where they shot it.
Computer generated.
Pick somebody. Pick something.
That woman had her hand up. Thank you.
What were your favorite scenes to film? Like, what were your favorite ones to do?
John, you want to take that one?
I didn't have a lot of scenes in the movie, but walking into the cornfield at night to sacrifice myself to he who walks behind the rose was without a doubt one of the most exciting movie experiences I've ever had. It was the first movie I ever did. I will say that. But still to this day, just the way you had it lit in the cornfield and the crowd of little kids, and I was gonna kill myself, you know, or sacrifice myself, I was thrilled. And I also had just seen Flashdance, and I took my shirt and I turned it down. You just get your shirts off, you're covering. I'm like, I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups all day long. I want to wear it down here. And she's like, no, you pull it up. And I go, no, I want to wear it down here. I'll never forget that, and it was like, this is beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah. Everyone gets to answer the question.
Yes, sir.
Everyone's well, I'll answer it for the cornfields. There was something about going out into that cornfield that was just crazy. It was like you'd be walking through this, you know, from our trailer to the cornfield, it was just like this psych up. And then by the time you got there, it just was like this powerful space. I don't know what about it, but there was something happening in that cornfield. To me, all the scenes we got to do in the walk and talks in there were great.
And he is so much taller than me that they had to have like milk crates, like a row of 20 of them, whatever, so that I could walk on them. And then you even dug a little trench, so, because the camera couldn't do it. So it's like I'm walking on milk crates as I'm talking to me. Don't fall over.
So were you the first to do a milk crate challenge?
Man, I did. Why didn't I copyright it? I would not be here right now. I'd be owning my own island.
Was the entire movie shot in the same farmers? Did he own that massive acreage of cornfield, or was that shot all over?
Let's be truthful, we're among friends. The majority was in about 4 small towns in Iowa. We lived in Sioux City, Iowa for the duration of the shoot, and then traveled every day about 30 or 40 miles from the hotel out to these little communities, little tiny towns with just an intersection for downtown. And then through the editing process made it look like a continuous small town. But in the post-production stage, when we, unfortunately during production, ran out of time to shoot complete scenes, we needed to pick up additional scenes. So in Los Angeles, I went out on weekends with a couple of people, and actors or no actors, or me holding the thing or whatever, and shot in the cornfields on the fringes of Los Angeles, where there's some, what do we call them, industrial farms and gardens and things. So a lot of the insert work, a lot of the close-up work of in the cornfields are Los Angeles or Bakersfield, California, or wherever we could go on the weekend with.
So you've got Iowa corn and California corn mixed in.
Let's say we invented a hybrid. Yeah. So it was a patchwork, and it was a really cool way to do it in that we were effectively making the film from the editing room. We knew when we started what we wanted to achieve, but then the results of what we received, what we made, maybe were not what we wanted, so then we could modify and augment and then go and do it better. So it gave us a free hand. But it had to be done with no money, so everything was done on the sly. Wow. Stealing locations and
Well, you got a question, right?
A question for you. The scene you had with Linda Hamilton?
Yeah.
In the middle of town square, is it true what I read that you're so into the scene you squeezed her face like really?
Well, if you look at, she was asking about the scene with Linda Hamilton when I'm holding her face and screaming Outlander and stuff. Yeah, she was really a game, right? She's like, don't worry about roughing me. It was my first film, right? So I was all geeked up. You see in the movie, you can see my fingers are like this deep into her face, you know what I mean? And the next day she had, broken corpuscles, and I felt so bad, I was best of the lead actress in the movie, but she was great about it. But I learned a valuable lesson that as an actor, you got to be in control. You can't be hurting me. But she was just like, go for it, it's okay. But you can't be messing up your lead actress's face, So, I learned a valuable lesson.
So first off, I actually grew up in Nebraska, and I can vouch that is an accurate depiction of daily life. I got one for kind of everybody. If you could cross Children of the Corn with any other horror franchise, which would it be and why?
Oh, God. These are the questions I always
Let's move on.
terrible at.
Maybe cross the field of dreams.
If you plant it, they will come.
Very good, very good.
I would say Pet Cemetery. Only because Pet Cemetery has that forbidden land. You know, we don't go there. That's something that is in the occult. We don't touch it. And the cornfield represented and the town being in the island of this forbidden land. Maybe there's a parallel in that kind of structure. That's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Don't look at me.
Hey,
Do you have any idea?
no, not a clue. That's a great question, though.
Such a great question. We should be given like 24 hours to deal with it.
Submit your questions online.
Those are the kind of questions you get asked on red carpets and you just choke every time. You're just like, I've done it. Yeah, nothing witty to say.
Back there?
We talked last night. I'm so scared of this.
This is not a technical question, but 2 parts. So I know what I do. Have you ever gone to like a Halloween corn maze and just kind of hung out? And are you afraid of the corn?
You want to start?
No and no.
That would be so much fun.
We weren't in costume, but Courtney and I did a couple like corn mazes in various places and haunted houses, but we were not in costume. But they would take us through stuff like that, and it was fun. And no, I'm not afraid.
But it was really funny. They were like, one was like, Children of Corn themed, the whole thing, right? And they had like, guys, little kid playing Johnny, yelling at us. It was awesome. I mean, they had the full-on characters. It was really fun, actually. But yeah, I know, I'm not scared of corn, but we'll forever be associated with it, right? People bring us stalks of corn and cornflakes, and you name it, we've signed it.
I'll tell this quick anecdote that I live in Oklahoma, and people there have their corn mazes and whatnot. And on the news one night, it was reported that a corn maze not too far from where I live was robbed, and the place was vandalized, and they lost all this valuable kind of paraphernalia and all the garbage that makes it fun. And I thought, well, that's awful. I'm going to call them up, and I will go out there, and if I bring any dollars to them, that'll help rebuild what they want to do. So they were very excited. Sure, come on out, stand here, and we'll meet you. This would be fantastic. And no one said hello to me. They just walked past me. It's the guy, and they go, yeah, fuck him. Okay. They wanted the chainsaws, and they wanted to be chased. So.
We have one back here.
Hi. My dad is from Iowa, and he's like a huge fan of your movie. So I guess in Iowa they have like a saying if they see somebody coming out of the corn, they call it a Malachi. I had a question. How often do you guys get lost in the corn while you're out there? Because I know it's very hard. It's very easy to get lost out there.
No, we never had to get too deep into where it all, this thing, it all looks the same, right? That's how you get lost. Yeah. They make sure we don't get lost, right? They take us where we need to go.
I've been lost in a hotel more than lost.
There you go.
Even this hotel is like The Shining. I'm like walking down the
Can I ask you guys a question? Because I've never done a panel or been with these guys. I've seen them since we made the movie.
Yeah.
But they're wonderful. They let me come here. They invited me up here, and I'm so happy to see all you two. This is amazing for me. And you know that commercial for the insurance company, that girl with the
Progressive.
Progressive.
Yeah.
What did they contact you guys or anything like that?
No.
No. So
They asked me if I could get them in contact with John Philbin. No.
I was just curious because when this thing is just growing apparently. Like,
Oh, I know.
It's just so cool when they make references like that. Like they did that in South Park, and stuff. Like, who's gonna get that's gonna get it, and those who don't. I love when they would do something like that.
There's a lot of, even like you're watching an old sitcom and they're like, and there's the children of the corn. That's cool.
Pop culture. Very good.
That's cool.
All right, any questions now? You guys in the back. Here we go. One guy right here. Yeah, you.
This is like about the Bible or the religious speak. Do you guys ad lib or read the Bible to like twist things around? Or?
Good question, Fritz.
No, George Goldsmith stuck to a pseudo-biblical language for the sense of creating this culture. And so what we started out to make really, I'll explain, was a film about dogma, about not believing what someone says or what someone proposes to you or demands from you, but instead challenge and respect, don't disrespect authority, but make your choices properly. So in the end of the film, we worked hard to create the Captain Kirk speech, which is when the hero, or the good guy more or less, fights Courtney and tells the children, don't believe in this and that. So to offset his particular culture with this cult group, this unique group of children, they had to have a language, because all cultures have a unique language. That's one of the foundations of a culture. So yeah, we just kind of peppered it in and there, and I didn't understand a lot of it, to tell you the truth.
And I just memorized my lines.
That's it? Cool. All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do they still yell Outlander at you?
All the time. Or I get asked to scream, which I also say no, I'll write it down on pictures. That's about it. But yes, somebody driving down the street, Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if this has actually been already, but was the corn edible?
Was the corn edible? I believe so. Except the stuff they spray painted because it was going yellow, so they kept spray painting it green.
Yeah,
it was dying.
When we looked at the corn in July, I believe, when my business partner and I scouted everything around the United States and decided Iowa was the place with the sea of corn everywhere we went. It was beautiful and young and green and great, and can't wait to come back. And then we returned in August, bam! It was all yellow and frail and crappy, and every day fields would be taken down. So what we would see one day would be 2 fields either side of the highway ready to be harvested. The next day one would be gone. So we had to constantly just, what are we going to do? Let's make it up. And painting became one of the solutions, one of the remedies. So there were people hired to paint corn.
So maybe for the next film, they might have considered hiring an agricultural consultant.
We're back to that hybrid issue. Yes.
You're in corn.
Yes, leave your resume with us, please. Thank you.
Question, sir.
You guys have any offset shenanigans or stories you can tell us about?
Behind the scenes.
I was telling you, the best prank to this. So the first scene I did was the first thing you see me come out of the cornfield, the Malachi, which is when she has the dream sequence, and the kid jumps up at her right under the sheet, right? Well, they actually really snuck him under there, right? And that was my first day working. Like, and she got so scared and jumped like 10 feet back, but she was a great sport about it. But still to this day, the best prank I've ever been part of in a movie, because they really got her. I thought this is how you make movies, I thought like everything was a prank after that.
I don't know if there were any offset. We worked, I did. I was 22 hours a day, and I just got up at 4 in the morning or so, did homework, did the work, watched pictures, the work from the previous day, and at the end of the day, and then went to sleep for 2 hours. And I didn't hang out with anybody, so I don't know what we like.
No, it was just, again, it's so quick and fast shooting.
I hardly had any days on set. I had a couple of my first movie, so I was in this hotel in Sioux City, and they gave us this thing called per diem, which I don't really,
little money to spend.
First time in my life, I'm getting an envelope of cash, so I would go to this mall in Sioux City, Iowa, and spend it all. I come back to the hotel, I'm like, I got this cowboy hat, this 4X beaver thing, and I got this leather jacket. Look at this leather jacket I got. I've never worn the leather jacket. I don't know what happened, but I'm just spending it. And I went to this set.
Was it like a slaughterhouse or a slaughterhouse? It smelled like pig fermentation. It was crazy.
It was just so different for me, and I was so excited to spend this money. And someone said, John, is this your first movie? I'm like, yeah, it's my first movie. You might think about saving some of that money. And I didn't like, why? Why would I save it? I was so excited.
So you can eat?
Yes. But yeah, no, I didn't have to work every day like you guys did. The first time I came to work, I was in that honey wagon thing, and my name was on it, and there's like a stunt man there having a party, smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, is this my room? He's like, it's your first day, right? And like, I thought that's how you get broken into a movie set. The stunt guys use your room and make you feel like that's your dues to pay. Those are the only two things I remember from not being on the set. I spent all my per diem, and someone else was in my room.
The welcoming committee.
That's good. So we have one here in the back here.
And there's a lady right there.
Oh, lady. Well, ladies divert, and then we'll get you in there on the other side.
Lady.
I recently rewatched the movie with my son in preparation for coming here, and he was very upset that you guys were defeated. And he was wondering if there's a thought of like an alternative ending instead of where Malachi and you guys could have won.
Well, yes, that's a good idea. We can, yeah.
In the short story, we do. They're up on the crosses at the end, but obviously they felt that wasn't going to be good for a movie, right? The lead's dead.
No, I mean, let's be honest. We're making a product for revenue. And we're making a specific product for a specific ticket buyer who wants to see certain outcomes and would not stand for and appreciate and then talk about an outcome of a film, an end of a film that wasn't along the lines of what they might expect. So, of course, you've got to kind of toe the line to do what the studio says will be best for them. And maybe Stephen King's original concept was the best for storytelling. But when they pay you per diem and they give you rooms with other people in it, you kind of have to do what they tell you to do.
How old is your kid?
7.
7. I think that's great that he's rooting for us.
Proletariat. Get it to the man.
I think that's why the movie, Generation. I think all teenagers have angst against their parents, and obviously metal music, want to get rid of their parents. But that's why generationally this movie just continually gets rediscovered. I really do. So who was in the back that we've been patiently waiting? Hit it.
Do you guys still have any of the props like Isaac's hat from the movie?
At the end of the shoot, they offered me the hat, the costume, and everything like this. Again, this is all our first movie, and I'm like, what do I want this crap for? It was all from Goodwill, and I'm like, no, I don't want this. And of course, later on, our manager,
our manager Chris actually tried to bid on it.
Bidding on it, and I think it went for over $10,000. So I'm like, oh, now. But I still have. They gave us wonderful crew jackets, like green corduroy with a big Children of the Born embroidered on the back.
You still have yours, John? You still have your Philbin? You still have yours?
I had it. I lost. I had it, but I lived in Malibu for the Woolsey Fire, and I lost every item, every picture, every support, every motorcycle, every movie jacket, and picture from the title, pictures from the movie. So I lost everything in that fire.
I'm so glad
that was a cool jacket. Yeah, I did.
I lost mine. I think somebody stole it out of my closet or something. I have no idea what happened to it. But I had the shirt for a long time, and then I ended up doing it on an auction for a theater company. I was part of to raise money for the theater company. I still wish I had it, to be honest.
At that mall that was converted from a slaughterhouse, we went and made. I don't know if you were part of it. We made up T-shirts ourselves, and we just had them ironed on. And then
you still have those? I don't remember.
I still have them.
Oh my God.
This too shall end.
I think you should wear one at the next show. I think you should bust it out.
Like John, I'll just start doing sit-ups.
Yeah, that jacket wouldn't fit me now.
You have a question, sir?
Just had a question about the casting process and how challenging or difficult it was to find these actors.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake. I mean, let's be honest. You do interview quite a few people for roles when you make any motion picture. But we were able to work with a wonderful woman who's since passed away, Linda Francis.
Yeah, Linda Francis.
Had her thumb and her aesthetic, her taste on a certain type of actor, and she just brought in wonderful people. Obviously, they're here. And there's stories about each one of them and how we all met. And it was just almost immediate. It really was. There was no question about Courtney or John. It's just that's it, send everybody else home. So it was a lot of fun. I think some of the other players, even Linda Hamilton and Peter Horton, were more of a discussion than it was for these people, these gentlemen. Let's ask that man, because he hasn't asked a question, and we'll ask you to try.
Fritz, you had touched on it a little bit when I got to meet you a little bit earlier.
Do I owe you money?
Yes. I will see you after.
Okay. I owe everybody money.
Just because you touched base on it, and you said you've been asked repeatedly about it, what is your thoughts on why the Blue Man is such a topic of discussion? Why is it
Blue Man, yes, the Blue Man.
I don't know if you're all familiar with, we'll call him our film historian, this man named John Sullivan, who owns a website called Children of the Corn Movie. And he has been a wonderful advocate and historian of the film and collects all the memorabilia and conversations and events and everything, and he's probably watching what we're doing today. He's just a wonderful, wonderful supporter over the years. And he's brought to my attention that people have talked about missing footage. And particularly the death of a police officer who sets up who the Blue Man is, a little bit of the backstory of the film. And I know there's a still photograph of children attacking the stuntman who was dressed as the Blue Man in Sioux City in a stage that we had. But I just don't remember shooting any scenes that we would include in the film, and when I look back on some of the scripts I have, different versions, I really don't find anything indicative of that person's backstory, that character's backstory. But what a cool myth, isn't it? So let's keep the myth going and say, yes, it's lost footage in Argentina right now. And they were searching desperately to have a director's cut, a food cut with the Blue Man included.
Hitler's relatives bought the footage in Argentina.
All film footage is found in Argentina. I don't know what those people do in Argentina. They have every film ever made in someone's garage.
You, sir? What was the most difficult part of the production for each of you?
Yeah, I'll go first. The most difficult part of the production for me was the knife carving in my chest, because it was, there's no computers. There's a guy next to me with a bucket of blood, pumping blood through a little tube that had to go up and be hidden by my hand and the handle of the knife. The tube goes out behind the blade and blood comes out of the tube. And I had to make a pretty indelible mark with that blade, and he had to get that blood out just right. So I was like, yeah, I'll carve it in my chest if you want. They're like, no. We're gonna let the process work. It takes time. We're gonna do a couple takes. We'll figure it out.
It was his first movie. I'll do this if you give me more per diem.
Exactly.
I guess we'll go this way. So the most difficult thing was the very big preaching scene, because that was my first scene. I landed in Iowa. They drove me to, you want to go meet everybody? So I got to drive to the set and see the freak out of Linda Hamilton with the kids sitting up. And I'm like, this is fun. But that whole scene was the first time I ever acted on, the big screen film. I did some commercials and stuff, a lot of theater before. So just the technical aspects of learning your lines, and they're called marks where you have to hit to help out the camera. So I was like, by the time, he who walks beyond roads did say, and you got to stop here. And then, so again, hitting it all. And I just wanted, Courtney and I talked about this before, that, your reputation when you're creating, maybe this is the first time, and Hollywood back then wasn't as huge as it is now. So I didn't want my reputation to go around like, oh, he didn't hit his marks, he didn't know his lines, don't hire Franklin again. But it's like, I felt so good and I really wanted to accomplish. So after a while, they were calling me One Take Franklin. So it's like, boom, knock it out, knock it out. Of course, all the producers loved that because they were saving money. So that was the most difficult thing, that first big scene.
I think that it's tough. All of it was really hard in certain levels of challenge. The one that stands out though is when we blew up that giant 10-story fireball, because this became a spectacle for the neighbors and the people of the area in which we filmed. And they lined the roads and they came out and picnicked all afternoon and waiting for what was originally, I guess, a 10, maybe 11 o'clock explosion that went off probably about 2 in the morning. But the complication was that the idea was we didn't have a lot of money, so we were going to make a gas bomb explosion. And a gas bomb explosion is basically I don't want to be a GA how to make bombs or anything, but in a cylindrical pit in the ground, you put a trash bag filled with gasoline, and then you ignite that. And because of the cylinder shape, it shoots like a bullet through a muzzle and goes up and then mushrooms. And so it's designed by physics and it works great. So let's do 3 or 4 cameras. They will be stationary. They will film the event once, and then we'll do it again, but we won't move the cameras, so we can have 2 shots from the 3 different angles, and we'll superimpose and we'll make an even larger fireball. But it's colder than shit. And the special effects guys had a little too much brandy, and the camera guys moved the cameras in between the shots. So we had 6 different images of different fireballs of different scales. And it was, I just was furious, because then we had to resort to a really kind of very low budget animation to enhance the one fireball that we were able to use. It was really frustrating.
I like to call him the Grinch myself. Yeah, it's a little Grinchy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the cold. It was those night shoots. It was freaking cold. And then that fight scene, you know, doing the fight scene, it was like 2 in the morning, squeezing. But they didn't dig up the ground because I didn't know better. Now, when you do stunts, they dig up the ground for you a little bit to make it nice. Nobody did that, so it was like really like hard, like icy. Well, I was sore the next day, but I stayed to watch that thing 2 to 2 in the morning. I was sick the next day because I waited so long. But it was cold. I wasn't going to miss that explosion either in my first film, and it was still pretty darn amazing.
It was cool.
I remember that.
It was fantastic.
But it was those night shoots, and everybody was freezing their ass off. That's what I remember being tough.
And then after we blew it up, I was, oh good, that's over. Let's go home. Let's go get some Taco Bell. No, back to work. You've got more to do. The sun hasn't come up. Let's keep shooting. That probably was the most aggravating and frustrating. I'm done, because you waited all for the whole day for that explosion. And then you had to go shove him in the cornfield without a shirt when it's really cold.
I was like, take my shirt down. Undo it. I'm not cold. I'm training for months. I gotta go shopping when get me home before the mall opens.
This one has a question, sir.
You mentioned the corn flakes and gifts. I'm curious, what's the weirdest corn themed or otherwise the weirdest gift you've gotten from a fan?
Ooh, weird. Well, maybe these people can answer this later on. They might bring you something that's really weird. I don't know.
There were like a few corn crosses that was kind of creepy. It was like,
yeah, those are weird. Dolls, dolls.
Yeah.
Those are weird.
I got a fan letter from somebody out of England once. It's not really to sign, but it was addressed to Fritz, Kiersch, Director, USA. And somehow through the post office to the Directors Guild to me ended up my post office. So I opened it up, and it was the printout of the web page, I think, IMDb web page, which you all know. And it was a sentence written in a circle, a spiral in red ink, asking me about helping this person do something. And red ink, so then I dropped it. One sentence, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. That was the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah. I got a lot of fan mail right after it opened up, and they would send it to my manager in New York, and she would fill up an envelope and send it over to me. So there was one letter from this girl, and it was so creepy. She said, "I know you're not Isaac, but can you please come and kill my father?" And I was like just shaking, and I happened to have the fireplace going, and I just threw it in the fire. And then later on, people found my actual address, and now you can go on the internet and find wherever I live. But for back then, it's really creepy to get letters sent to your home. No, that's crossing the line.
There wasn't a per diem attached to that.
No per diem.
No per diem. I think we have time for one more question here.
Oh, way in the back, this one.
Yeah.
Way in the back. There she is.
John, it's for you.
I'm a theater trained actor. So, a good question, very great question. Because in theater, depending upon the size of the theater, like for this, I would have to be really big and say, "Hey everybody, how you doing?" Yourself at home. Big, especially if you got a 500 seat theater. But TV, take it down a little bit, and then film when you're going to see yourself, 30 some feet high. Then it's like, consider yourself.
Yes.
To your question, in that film is a discipline. It is not necessarily always performance. Many times the wardrobe does the acting, the music does the acting, creates the performance. And so when a trained and really knowledgeable film actor understands that they must go to that mark, they must be in this light, that the elements of film will create the character moment or the emotional moment, then their contribution just is fantastic. It's completely different in theater where they are in charge of everything. But in film, so many people contribute to the outcome that many times it is just be, we can all be Batman, can we not? We just put on the outfit, we are Batman. I mean, that's it, that's making movies.
With a milk crate.
Exactly. I'll give you your $5 later.
All right, well, I think with that, I think that's our last question. Awesome question.
We don't have any pictures. No, not in front of the thing. And we've got to give it to John Sullivan, the guy who did all this. Yeah.
All right, on the count of 3, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Click, 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 click.
Thank you. I just needed one.
You're going to get 50.